Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Casenti. I'm an entrepreneur with a bachelor's in biology and a master's in special education. And what I am honored to do every single day is to transform lives by restoring hope, health, and happiness. See, I was diagnosed with breast cancer a couple of years ago. And as I was looking for pieces to the health puzzle, I came up on a remarkable health and science breakthrough that not only did it help me in my own health journey, but it gave me my father back 3 years and 3 months after he suffered a major neurological event. So, what I do now is I am building a team, a global team, so that this message and mission can be spread around the world. And one of the most wonderful things that I get to do right now as an entrepreneur is to highlight other entrepreneurs who are just remarkable people that I've met along this journey. They are having true impact on this world. And I have a wonderful person here with us today by the name of Daniel Charles, and I'm going to invite him to come on right now. So Daniel, if you can please come on camera so that I can introduce you. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for honoring me with your time. I am honored and humbled to be with you today. I'm so excited for everyone, for you to meet Daniel Charles. Daniel is the executive director of Leading Change Incorporated. And this is an amazing organization that you're going to learn more about from Daniel. And it originated in Liberia, West Africa. And I had the honor and privilege of meeting Daniel about a couple of weeks ago through a virtual networking group. And it blows my mind, the power of networking, and that brings us here today. So Daniel, can you tell everyone where you're calling in from right now?
Thank you so very much, Lisa, for the opportunity to be on your show. Like Lisa said, my name is Daniel Charles. I am the executive director of Leading Change. Leading Change is a development nonprofit that works to promote active citizens' participation in all forms of development. And it's not just a local nonprofit. We work in Liberia and the United States. And our goal is to continue to work to build a vibrant team that creates these active citizens and engage revolution all across the world. Today, I am blessed to be calling and doing this interview from Denver, Colorado with Lisa. And Lisa, I'm excited and I'm looking forward to this interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm excited too, because we had an amazing one-on-one, and I felt like so much of what you said resonated with me. And I think your message is a very powerful one to get out into the world. And I think this is wonderful for you to talk about leading change and talk about what it is that you're doing and how people can find you and help you. So, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to just kind of take it a few steps back. And can you tell us about your journey to this work that you're doing now? Tell us about your journey and what created the inspiration for the type of work that you're doing. And also, this is silly. I should have you, if you can explain briefly, and we'll get into it a little bit more, but can you explain briefly to people what it is that Leading Change does and what you do in Leading Change?
All right, Lisa. So basically, I'll talk about what Leading Change as an organization it's doing, and then I'll go back to what inspired the work. So what we're doing is a matter of functions, responsibilities, the goals we've outlined and things we're trying to achieve. So at the moment, Leading Change as a development nonprofit focuses exclusively in five key areas. And the first thing is education innovation. We are in classrooms, we are on university campuses, we in communities, we in networking groups, we in different clubs, and we'll talk more about what really we do in details. But on the surface is, I believe, is education and the growth and the betterment and the reforms and all of the drive that embodies what it really means to be a developed nation, a developed people. It's tied in to the concept of education. So education, innovation, it's a key pillar in leading change. The next thing we look at is technology and leadership. Technology and leadership, it's one of the interesting piece, and a lot of people here in the organization will tell you it's one of the areas that I'm really focused on, hugely developing. And by the way, you don't know this, Lisa, um, um, 75% through my book that focuses on technology and leadership, which is going to be, by the grace of God, published maybe towards the end of this year or early next year, based on how well I can get my hands and moving things on fast. So technology and leadership is key for us because we look today around some of the greatest revolution we've seen. You know, you can easily take away leadership and technology from the massive development of mankind over the different ages and times. So you could go from the agricultural revolution, you could go to the industrial revolution, and then you could go to all the different technology, all the different revolutions you want to talk about. In every construct, you will find the active role of leadership and technology. So that's the second pillar of leading change. Our third pillar is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship, it's a foundational concept that we teach really differently. Uh, our focus in entrepreneurship is basically not so much of the conventional style of acquiring money, selling products, or whatever it is. We don't disagree with that, but we begin to build entrepreneurial spirits in people by having them to understand that within you have something that you're dreaming about. And it could be a service style development or it could be a product style development. So first, what we do under the entrepreneurship, we try to first identify this talent, the passion, what is within you, and begin to build on it so that over time you get to understand that the power for self freedom, which we don't tell people comes easily, but with time, with grind, with dedication, with absolute commitment, you can be able to harness that power and give yourself not just achievement but fulfillment. So entrepreneurship is the third pillar. The fourth pillar in leading change basically is one of the pillars that is near and dear to my heart, is exclusively built around community development. But today, Lisa, when we look at many of our global challenges, we often rule out, at least, no, not all the time. Most of the times we have to rule out what role communities and individuals can really play in solving global problems. And we said that these big global institutions to solve global problems, but they have to come back and filter into community levels, because if you look at the structure of this, global problem has elements. And the elements, can be taken away from the family or the individual or the community, obviously the state or the country, and then the region. So you can build a structure on how to solve global problems. You realize probably the fundamental component in there will be the community. So community development is a powerful piece that we worked on at Leading Change. And then finally, the next thing is agriculture development. So agriculture development for us, it's special, it's a drive. Uh, we always, we go, we look at different parts of the world, and we see in some places there's abundance, in other places there is unbelievable shortage of food. There are so many incredible statistics about, millions of people going to bed hungry every single night, millions of people dying of hunger and starvation in a world where, in rich and industrialized nations, some people, even keep food in their pantry and it will spoil. And then you look around, you see other people standing on lines for weeks and days. So we believe the solution to that is not for people to go and hand out food. That's fine. Generosity is key, but we believe that people should continue to innovate in agriculture so that even if it means massive subsistence farming, so that people take the liberty to provide for themselves. So that's key. So we talk about agriculture innovation a lot. So those are the 5 key areas we are working in at Leading Change. So that's what we do. And um, I'll talk about what inspired this work, which is of key interest to me. So growing up, Lisa, as a kid, you always get this one moment, and I think at a certain point, if I may get it right, it was either about age 16 or 17 when I had a spark, and I felt like I felt this power, something just saying to me, um, you're gonna have to go on and push harder. You're gonna have to try and live some level of abnormal life because within you there is a capacity to deliver something bigger, something better, something, you gotta deliver something that empowers your generation, that empowers your people, that empowers your family, your friends, and everybody. So I didn't know what that was. I was just a kid. So I thought about it over and over and over, and I didn't make any move around that 16, 17 until I think it was coming towards the end of my senior year doing my undergrad when the vision for Leading Change came and Leading Change was founded. And since I was 23 years old. We started Leading Change when I was 23 years old. And today, Leading Change has been around for at least 10 years. This September, Leading Change will be celebrating her 10 years anniversary. And that was the vision that came. And I've worked with tremendous team over the years, and we've built a community in terms of the people I've worked with, to first of all give them a clear understanding of this vision and what we're trying to do and how we're going to do it and how it's going to make our world a better place. So that inspiration, I just think it's a gift. It's a gift. Along the years, it's been challenge. I've been placed in a lot of position of inconvenience. I've been placed in a lot of position of chaos sometimes, but the dream has kept me alive because I always know that we moving forward regardless of what happens.
That, Daniel, this is really, I have to say, this is really inspirational. This is resonating with me so much that just so many of the things that you said, that you talked about at the age of 16, 17, you knew you had to do something different for this, for your generation, for your family, for everything. And you had to put something in place that not only was going to serve you, it wasn't really about serving you, it was about serving your community and that generation that was coming after you, figuring out how can we have an impact on the world? How can you have an impact on some young people's lives? Because we talked about it. You talked about that it's so important in our one-on-one for young people to understand that their current conditions are not going to depict their future. And so I think that that's a big part of what you're doing at Leading Change. So if there was a young person right now just watching this, what would what would you tell them about what I just said to you about that your current circumstances, your current conditions, where you're living right now, that does not have to determine your destiny or your future? What would you say to that? How can you help?
Yeah. Lisa, one of the most difficult things that I've come across in this business, especially leadership and motivation and encouragement and everything. Um, the number one thing first that I always have at the back of my mind is it doesn't really end. Um, in most people's lives, I would say this to you. Uh, the first thing we have to deal with is getting rid of a lot of this stuff that really, you know, uh, don't matter, because I tell you why, we have so many distractions going on in our lives that most of the time, it takes away our ability to really sharpen our mind and concentrate on what we want to go for. And I'll tell you this, a lot of us, including myself, we are naturally inclined to the path of least resistance. Not many people want to take the path of great resistance. And so when you start having a conversation about the future and start telling people your current circumstances, no matter how worse it may be, no matter how terrible it may be, I don't know, um, but if you just keep moving on and keep driving towards something and not giving up, something could change. I mean, you could do the best for yourself. I could talk to people about the um, the Les Brown of this war. You know, labor educable, mentally retarded, born on an abandoned building. Not knowing his mother and his father. Getting an adopted mother. Today, he's one of the most sought after motivational speaker in the world. But Les Brown was put back from, I think he was demoted in high school, and over time, when you look at him right now, look at what he's accomplished. You don't even want to believe his story, And you could go to Steve Harvey, the comedian who slept in his car for 3 years, and look at the empire he's built for himself today. All these people have stories, but at one point in time in their lives, they were in the midst of chaos, in the midst of chaos. And nobody will tell you that it just got out of that. Every one of them will say one particular thing to you, maybe in different ways, but it's the same way. They tell you, I kept moving, I kept pushing towards my goal. I kept going, I kept going, I kept going. And then on that day, this happened. But there was a focus. So usually what I'm telling people right now is it's not so much about being so fascinated about the dream, but you also got to be patient with the process, because there is a build up taking place, and it's happening to me, it's happening to a lot of us, because I tell people one of the controversial thing that I usually put out there, I say for myself, I don't set expectations, I don't set limitations, because I personally believe that a human mind is not only built to be able to deliver emotional intelligence, but a human mind is built to be able to deliver something I call strategic infinite intelligence, which means at that level, your potential is limitless, it's unlimited. It doesn't matter about what goals you set, there are just things that you can accomplish that you and I don't know the type of things that we can really accomplish. So when I work with an understanding of the possibilities that exist. Are so many, and sometimes I appreciate suffering. Appreciate suffering because what what it does for me, it gives me a sense of understanding that you are earning your way to glory. And people don't want to accept this, but suffering, it's a part of the process. I don't know how you're gonna get through this without suffering. And because I talk about natural inclination to the path of least resistance, most people wouldn't want to live this entrepreneurial life because it has a lot of suffering at the start. And there are a lot of people who can jump in it and it peaks up right away. And then by a certain point in time, you still have the drama along the way. Most people will say, which I don't disagree with, living a normal life, get up for your 9 to 5, pay your bills, be with your family, take a vacation, 2 weeks a year. That's fine. If that's the life you want to live, that's incredible. It's honorable. But if you just think to yourself that I believe that I'm here for a special purpose, I'm here to impact, I'm here to expand, I'm here to deliver, I'm here to grow, I'm here to inspire, I'm here to, I'm here to be in Africa, Asia, Europe, wherever, talking to people, changing lives, making a difference, whether it's publicly or it's privately, then the regular normal life, it's not for you. You got to be a little crazy. You got to be abnormal. And that's where you got to step out of your comfort zone and take this risks. So when I talk to kids right now, your conditions, your conditions are the real challenges you're facing, but challenge your conditions with your decisions. Because I tell you one thing, if you make a decision, like we're going to be talking on the podcast tomorrow, if you make a decision to be able to direct your mind in a state of emotional and strategic infinite intelligence where the circumstances around you become situations for your intelligent judgment rather than situations for your catastrophe that just weigh you down and throw you off record, throw you off track. You become a different person. You become a totally different person. I've spoken to people who, his wife, I spoke to a gentleman, his wife was in a funeral home getting ready for her funeral, and then within a few seconds, his daughter was involved in an accident, and he had an interview scheduled. And before his interviewer called him and like, this is unfortunate. You're getting ready for your wife funeral in 2 weeks. Daughter is in a terrible accident. What do you do? And he said, I've out there, the ambulance took my daughter, but we have to go ahead with this interview. I need to do this interview. And I cried. I cried. And he sat on the interview, and what he said to me, he said, I'm making a conscious decision. He said, because what I'm about to do here is something that my daughter would love listening to. It's something that my late wife would have loved to see me do. And I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this for everybody else to make us all understand that I can be out there crying with my hands between my legs and grieving. And I'm living in a state of mind to support them, to support other people, and to be an inspiration. So, regardless of what you're going through, Lisa, few of the things I've seen in life that are fundamental that will not change is one of these days, we are going to die. Sometimes somebody is going to lose their job. Somebody is going to get divorced. Terrible things are around. They will happen. But human beings, sometimes we overlook a capacity that I really do feel that we don't utilize much. And what really that capacity is we have been given the ability to overcome everything, everything. I don't see what is it that we cannot overcome. And I do believe that the world has to wait because people think we've done all the inventions. No, things that mankind is doing that we will be doing. And there are things 50 years from now will be unbelievable. This is why I say strategic infinite intelligence is a state of mind that puts you in a constant position of inspiration and control, where because of you living in that state, the quality of your action impacts and elevates people all around you, and you become a light that makes the world a better place.
These are very, very powerful words, extremely powerful words. And I do believe that. I I believe that, as you said, we all have this potential within us, a limitless capacity. And if we truly embrace that and truly believe that, and we're always excited about what is coming, what is possible, and collaborating with others that have limitless capacity in their mind, imagine what can come together, imagine what can happen. And that seems to be what you've attracted for people within Leading Change. These are people that are thinking this way, and they are, like you said, embracing and understanding that you're going to go through suffering along the way and making sacrifices, but understanding that the impact that one person, one organization, someone's energy, someone's mind can have on the world can be very great. So don't dismiss the impact that you can have. And I think that's a big part of your message.
Yeah. And Lisa, you know, the funny thing about this part, just before I know you jump to your next question, is there is a misconception about me sometimes that, you know, I like to address also in this interview. A lot of people think, like, what's going on with this guy? You know, does he really what are his struggles? You know, what is he, does he ever really have some tough times and everything? And I'll say this to you, you know, and I've been talking to you a lot one-on-one. I'll tell you what happened to me last week. Last week, I had some of the biggest setbacks in my life. And most of the times because people, I don't come out or I don't go in the corner and crawl and cry and make this thing, you know, you know, I tell you what, last week, Wednesday, and it happened, everything happened in succession. So I was nominated for a global leadership prize um, by the Talibur leadership group, where, you know, if I had won, I would have won just a financial prize of $25,000 with a global leadership platform. So I was nominated for that. And on Wednesday morning, the chairman of the review panel called me. He said, Daniel, it's been stressful. It's been wonderful, but I just want to say we enjoy reading your profile. We enjoy reading about your life story. Unfortunately, you weren't choosing to go to the next round. So, you know, and then I'm like, wow. So I got dropped. And then 2 hours later, I received a call from a consultancy project that I was sure of getting. They told me and they said, you know, they just gave the project to another person, the second part that hit in. 3 hours later, I'm sitting down, another school called me and they say, you know what, we don't want to move forward with your project at this time. Uh, the administration is looking at something else. 3, I dropped. Number 4, and this is really personal. I had a very, very, very dear friend of mine who called me, and we have spoken days earlier about a wonderful opportunity that I prayed with him and I really wanted it. And he called me and he said he lost, and I took it as a personal loss. So I had a lot of setbacks in 7 hours time last Wednesday that took me off the grill, in a sense that I was like, but after everything, Wednesday, this happened. Thursday morning, I woke up and I'm like, here is life. Lisa is out there. Victoria is out there. I got my podcast coming up on Saturday. I got Donna out there that's calling me. She wants me to be able to take a tour and speak to students across in her clubs. And and I may have really wanted this global leadership prize. I may have really wanted this consultancy project, which obviously would have brought some big revenue in. But I lost all these things. But look at what I have here to be grateful for. You know, so I come to this interview with excitement. Waiting, looking forward to what you know, Donna and I are also planning to do with the leadership clubs that she want me to speak at. So it's about a decision. You know, I could have sat down and gave up on this week and just say, you know what, I'm done with this week. But I tell you, and what most people don't know, sometimes the process has to be impregnated with with challenges, with setbacks, with critical experiences that will look you in the face and say, are you ready? And this is the part that when we are going through, even if you're doing the right thing and the good things not happening, people lost focus and they said, I'm getting off here, and I'm getting off here. But I tell you, to be able to get this dream, you sometimes you gotta walk in the tunnel alone, because not many people will be able to stand with you in the tunnel there. And this is no disrespect, even sometimes to our family members, the closest people we love. At a certain point, they will leave your hands and you have to walk down in that tunnel alone. So if I tell you from the bottom of my heart, last week was a terrible week. For Wednesday, when I woke up on Thursday, I said Wednesday to Monday is over. This is Thursday to the end of the week, and I'm moving forward. This is me. That's how I approach life, with optimism, because I believe that opportunity can come anytime. And some things are not meant to be. The ones that will be, will be. So you got to understand the difference between failing and being a failure. Sometimes you fail in life. That doesn't mean you're a failure. So you take one moment, look at it, and appreciate. Like I said to the committee, I appreciate my nomination, and I look forward to working with you people in the future. I'm moving forward with my life. But this is giving me even more inspiration for my podcast tomorrow, because these are things I will talk about. And I just wanted to put this out there because a lot of times people say he doesn't talk about problems, so he doesn't have one. But I have so many problems. But I take my problems and I make a decision to allow my decision to control my conditions.
Beautifully said. You are such an eloquent speaker, Daniel. I love everything that you've said. And I love that you talked about and telling people that, yes, I have problems. And yes, Wednesday was very difficult for me, but I chose to wake up on Thursday with the spirit of optimism, and that opportunities are coming to me, and maybe those were not the right opportunities, and I will find the right ones. And also showing gratitude for what you do have, showing gratitude for the connections that you're making, and looking forward to that. And I think that a lot of the things that you're talking about is just acceptance that this is part of life. This is part of entrepreneurship. This is part of being a human, is that we are going to have suffering. We're going to have things that disappoint us, but it's how we emotionally and mentally respond to those situations that determine what's going to happen in our future. And so here you are today. And may I say that may the people who are meant to hear your words be watching this recording. And I believe that this is going to be a recording that is going to be shared over and over again, because what you're doing is you're actually instilling hope in people. And I think sometimes that's what's missing. And you're instilling hope, and you're saying it doesn't matter what Wednesday looked like. Let's go to Thursday and let's see what's here. And I cannot thank you enough for that. And also, I want to share, if it's okay with you, can you talk a little bit about your childhood? Because you talked about, you're right now, you spend part of your time in Denver, Colorado, and part of your time is in Liberia, West Africa. So can you talk about, because some people are going to wonder what are the conditions? How are people living? How was your childhood? Because you've come very, very far, and I think people should know this.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you brought that up, Lisa. But usually, in the context of having different levels of people, that will watch the interview and listen, like to talk about it, my childhood and growing up, in basic levels. The first one would be like, I grew up as a really normal kid. Uh, mom and dad, dad would take you to school. Um, Mom do the cooking, cleaning up, and everything. Uh, and but I grew up like many kids in Africa. I mean, highly, highly, highly impoverished community. I would say this that I had the grace, the really special grace of God to be in a family where we ate every day. I know of a lot of families that went days without food. And but I know my dad always had this motivation that all we needed to do was to go to school. Because if we did, and if we acquired the inspiration, the capacity needed, we would change our lives, and then our kids, wouldn't have to live through what we lived through. So just on a quality of life, I'll tell you, grew up in a place, there's limited access to quality education, limited access to 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 effective justice, lack of opportunity for upward social mobility. Think about all the things, and big people, whether you micro or microeconomic analysts, they'll put it this way. But think about growing up in a country where GDP per capita is less than US 500 dollars and almost 72% of the population live in abject poverty, where people could not afford $1 a day, a US dollar a day. Families could not afford it. Um, and then you have majority of the people that were employed working for less than US $250 a month. Uh, this was the condition of majority of the country. Our family was part of these statistics, but just in a sense that we had a mom working, dad working, they could put stuff together and be able to provide for us in a way that, it kept us, healthy and strong and moving forward. So these were the conditions around my childhood that actually set the foundation for me. And when I look back at that age, 16, 17, and I said, this is what we have. But is this all? Can this be better? And when I thought about it, and up to now, even some people in my family, they'll tell you this. When I thought about it, and I said, I made a commitment to myself. I said, this is going to be for the public good. Um, and I don't like to talk about this right now, but you know, by comparison, my life, what I do now, travel to Africa, come back to Denver, live out here with my family and go. People consider that a massive accomplishment, having my office over there and I work from home here in the US and trying to inspire and develop people. For me, this is just the beginning. Like I said to you about, I don't set expectation and say, this is what it is. I tell people we're going somewhere and we're going to go somewhere really great because the potential that is within this, it's unbelievable. So that childhood, which obviously is rough. And if you were to ask me, do you want to go back and live in that type of childhood? I said, no, I'd rather have some of the basic necessities and amenities of life, growing up, not knowing what is electricity until I was in the 11th grade. So and when I tell people this, people be like, what's happening? Like, and the first time we had light turn on in our house, my dad brought a fluorescent bulb home, connected to a battery, and then we put it on in the house, and everybody was like, wow. So we no longer started on candles. So we started gathering and studying on a fluorescent bulb in the house. So, the conditions were enough to keep you as a failure. But I'm grateful that by the special grace of God, my head was kept above water and I felt like this impact had to be made. And now I'm on a journey. And like we talked about this the last time, initially it started as a personal story, but now the way I summarize my story is tell people, I say, my story is a story of a guy whose pursuit of destiny. is becoming the ultimate awakening of a nation's social consciousness. Um, that's where I think I'm at right now, because I have so many people now in my programs. They look at me, and when I tell them that there was a time where in high school I wore one pair of shoes for 4 years, people will be like, "How did that happen?" I say, but I'm the guy talking to you right now. I am the guy. I'm the guy who fly from Denver, go back to Africa, fly from Africa, come to Denver and run these programs, train people. And if you give yourself some chance, some time, and if you think about all the conditions, it doesn't matter where you live right now, in a mud house, no food, no light, no water, you need some level of strategic capacity. You need some connections, and you need to be patient, because you can build up to something and make a difference. And I'll tell you this, Lisa, every morning I wake up, regardless of what I went through, a bad day, good day, every morning I wake up, Lisa, I feel something special. I feel like this is just beginning, because the world is going to hear my story. And one of these days, one of my greatest aspirations is I may have a chance to give a TED talk one of these days. I set that up as one of the things I would love to do, to share my story out there with people, but to make it really different, in a sense that I don't want the audience to be in sympathy with my childhood. I want the audience to be inspired by my courage, and to know that people born in those conditions didn't make the choice. What we have to do and create as an obligation, for we now who we that have the connections and the network and the resources, is make communities better. That's what leading change is about right now.
Wow, Daniel, these, I feel like you have so much to share, and your words, I mean, you are very inspirational, and I see you giving a TED talk. I see that easily.
I'm
So if
looking
there's,
forward to it.
you are, I see it. Put it on your vision board, because it's coming. And I just think that many people watching this now are going to, I mean, I have other questions, and I know we're kind of running out of time, but I want to make sure I get to them. How can people help you? How can they find you? So tell us a little bit about that, and so how can people find you? And I'll make sure that I put your information up. And how can we help you? So if somebody is inspired by your story and wants to help you with leading change,
Yeah.
what are you looking for?
So I don't need any personal help. So leading change, we're working on building a center right now. And if I will ask for any help, um, I'm trying to get the kids of the individual schools to come to a modern training center. We're building a center right now that the engineers, they've estimated should cost probably $80,000. That's one of the goal right now, leading change. And my public appeal everywhere is, if I could get people to help me, we got the plan, we got everything. I want that center up, because I just believe that providing that type of infrastructure with the level of quality that it can come around, they can network in a highly advanced training environment, and meet people globally, and just feel like they're in a different place. Seeing that structure down would be one of the greatest dream come true for me. So when people ask me now, how can we help you? That's what I need. Helping me with that project is critical. How can people find me? Leading Change has a website, and I also have my personal contact information that I can put on here. But if you go to www.leadingchangeinc.com, we have everything there available. I can be contacted through that site. And also, Lisa here also has all my information. So if you're watching and you're a friend of Lisa and you want to contact Lisa, Lisa contacts me directly. So that's it, Lisa. That's the help I need right now, because I believe my goal to train 100,000 young people in the next 4 years. To get that goal, to get to that goal, I would need this center.
That is a big goal. I love
Yes.
that goal. I
Yeah.
believe that you can do this.
And I have this mapped out already. The framework is mapped out. The plan is mapped out. And I would just give a gist of it. These number of people will be trained by the time I have completed training, what I call a powerful 50 strategic expert. Right now, I have trained 26. So I'm in line to training the 50. So I got 24 more to train. And after this, they're going to be released for some massive, powerful training. So, and one thing that can accelerate this process is having people come to the center, having people engage at the center. And I also want that center to be a spotlight and as like a heritage site for when people come to Africa and when you want to talk about grassroots leadership, that center should be a symbolic foundation for that type of engagement.
This is awesome. I can see the structure. Do you have a vision in your head of what the structure looks like?
Yes. So, and Lisa, I will send you a copy of the plan.
I would love to see that because I want to visualize it so I can put that energy out into the universe.
I will send you after our interview, I will email you a copy of the plan. It's been an amazing journey. And I remember I wasn't thinking about this until 2.5 years ago. A lady told me, she said, I don't have a lot of money. I'll donate like $50 to your organization, but here's what I want you to do. Whatever you're trying to do, build a development center. And I'm like, where am I going to get the money from? She said, just get the plan and talk about it, and it will be built. So, um, so 2.5 years later, here we are. I talked to engineers, they drew out the plan, they created a cost, say this thing gonna cost like $80,000 to get it up. So I said, okay, it's fine. I will begin talking about this. And I'm hoping that by the time my book is up the end of this year, that toy, doing some book tours should also provide an opportunity to raise some money for the center. But that's the work we got going on right now.
Amazing. And we are almost out of time. I've kept you so long, Daniel, but I do want you to talk about your podcast and how people can actually join your podcast, which is on Saturday mornings, 8:30 a.m. Eastern, I believe, correct?
Yes. Yeah, Lisa, and this is kind of selfish and funny, and sometimes people will say, what is going on here? My podcast, it's a motivational podcast, but it's like a family style podcast. And to be honest with you, people have been asking me questions and questions. I love to have my podcast on invitation. And I like to talk to the people that come to my podcast because the podcast is not just any other podcast. I'm building something where um, it's a type of strategic mindset group because the podcast is designed to not just be a place where people come and listen, it'd be a place where people come and get inspired, and it'd be a place where people come and say, this is how we're going to move forward. This is the community network group we are creating. This is the framework. This is it. So, like many other podcasts where people just throw it on this site, throw it on that site, throw it on that site, I talk to people and say, do you need an invitation to the podcast? That's how I do it. And when you come to the podcast, yeah, you may not have the chance to talk, but I'm sure you have the chance to network. And because the podcast is usually followed at the end of every month by a networking section so that we go over processes, procedures, and framework for just way forward, how to continue to improve and develop. So that's the way it is. And Lisa can give you an invitation. I can give you an invitation if you want to come to this podcast. It's every Saturday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. So And invitation, we usually send out the invitation on Friday. So today I'll be sending out invitation to the other group of people that's coming.
That's yes, please. So reach out to me, or you can also friend Daniel on Facebook and request through Messenger for an invitation. And I'm excited to join in the podcast and hear everything that you have to say. And Daniel, as we are ending our, oh, I'm so sorry, you're muted. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, I was going to say, as we are ending, and I still had other questions, so we may need to do a follow-up. But
okay, we can plan a follow-up next time. That's good.
Absolutely. So as we are ending, I just wanted to know if any words that you would like to leave our viewers with.
Yeah, and I wanted to save the best for the last. And what I really want to say, Lisa, is about you. You know, the world is always a better place with people sharing kind spirit. What you've done for me this week, you don't know the degree to which it impacts my life and elevate my spirit, especially having a terrible week on when this Wednesday, what it was for me. But your generous attitude, your ability to try to put yourself in a position to see others succeed is powerful. And I've said I hate you and I love you for that. But people don't know this. The gratitude and the good feeling that comes from you helping other people succeed. There's nothing more than that. And when I meet people of your style, of your kind, I remain forever grateful, forever grateful, to have encountered, to have shared this interview with you today. And I just look forward to wishing you a phenomenal life in all that you do for promoting people. And I believe your work, it's not just a work for it's not just work, but I think it's a calling, it's a vocation, it's a cause, because your spirit and your heart that you put out there, it's really the type of energy we need in the world. With everything ongoing right now, and how people feeling challenged, people feeling negative, people feeling upset. People need to meet you, and you need to put some of your light on them. So I really thank you for this, Lisa. You helped made my week after a lot of setback, and I remain forever grateful to you for that.
Daniel, you just touched my heart in an unbelievable way. You made my week. This was the highlight of my week. And what you just said, I cannot thank you enough for. I cannot thank you enough for. I want to leave on a positive note, but I had something happen that really made me, it was a tough time. I had some words that were said to me that just really hurt my spirit and my soul. And I feel like you just repaired that. So I cannot thank you enough for that, Daniel. And thank you so much for being here. And I hope you can feel the energy that I'm sending back to you for being here. Okay. And please, thank you
and
so
I'm looking
much.
I'm looking forward to the part 2 of this interview, because
yes.
like you said, we
I
got
have
a lot.
I have other questions that we did not even talk about. So we will do a part 2. But yes, we will say to everyone, many blessings, and to have a beautiful day, beautiful evening. Whenever you are watching this, please share this. Please share about Daniel Charles and Leading Change Inc. and what they are doing to impact the world, because it's amazing. Thank you, Daniel.
Lisa, tell Liana I said hi.
Okay, I will tell her. She wanted to come in, and I meant for her to. I will tell her. Thank you so much, Daniel, and many blessings to your family.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, I'm going to end the recording.